It is Friday and we are back here live, closing out the week to review what we talked about on Monday for Bitcoin and Tuesday for XRP and the altcoins. So let's have a look at how things are playing out across the market. Let's see if price is acting the way that we would have liked. And most importantly, let's have a look if we are seeing signs that price is behaving the way we want to see, if the dominance is breaking down, if the altcoin market is holding up, and if XRP is playing the way that we had talked about in the Tuesday's video. So we're here on Friday for our weekly recap to assess how our strategy from the start of the week is playing out, and let's dive into it. So on Bitcoin, we can see it's been a very boring week. On Monday, we talked about how we were looking for a potential push up to grab liquidity from these protected highs up here, and we've seen somewhat of a push on Monday evening, but no follow through, and the week's been kind of choppy. So nothing really to report on for Bitcoin. Still looking for a pullback here and some sort of correction. I think we're going to either grind down to this level or ABC correct down to our supports. And if you want to know why we have this level marked, you can go back to Monday's video, which I'll link here, and have a look why we find this level so interesting, the confluence at this level, the liquidation. More importantly though, having a look over at the Bitcoin dominance, seems to be playing out how we expected it would on Monday, expecting Bitcoin's price to sell off a bit, altcoins to sell off a little bit more, a little bit of choppiness in this market before eventually dominance breaks down, similar to the way in 2017 things played out here, where we've seen a nice big run up in Bitcoin's dominance to finally see that initial first sell-off, and then we've kind of seen the dominance chop around a bit before making it up to this 618 Fibonacci retracement level, and then eventually breaking down, giving us our alt season, and during this whole time seeing Bitcoin break out into a new all-time high, similar to what we could be seeing soon if price is to chill out, sell off, find support at our levels in this zone. Money runs from the altcoins, runs back into Bitcoin. We see the dominance spike up, chill out into this area, make it back to that 618, the same way it did in 2017, before we can start to see that dominance unwind, price move out of Bitcoin, Bitcoin break to the highs at the same time, but ultimately see the altcoin market outperform like we've seen in this time. So let's jump into the altcoins and have a look at what we're seeing. So we're here on the others chart, which has a look at all the altcoins except the top 10 biggest coins. So no Bitcoin, no XRP, no Ethereum, no Binance coin. More importantly, no Tether, no USDT, USDC. And what we can see on this chart is similar thesis playing out. We are looking for that correction back to those same levels, similar to Bitcoin in this structure. However, Bitcoin is holding up better in this region compared to the altcoin market, as it has been selling off for the last 3 days here, while Bitcoin has been holding and going sideways. So maybe we may not see as steep of a correction for Bitcoin, but more of a pullback for altcoins to find support in this zone and hopefully find the bounce here, which could lead to the dominance breaking down and the altcoin market outperforming Bitcoin here. Now jumping into XRP, last video we talked about how we found confluence in XRP from 2 different time periods, in how it had its original high, rejecting from its high, then having its first bounce, to which it consolidated, sold off, set lows like it has in the last 2 months, and how eventually when we grinded out of this and made our way back to the upside, that we would find resistance at this same level, similar to the way we did in 2021 when XRP had a run up, had its sell off, its initial bounce, went down, set some lows, consolidated here for a while, and then eventually moved up to find resistance at the same levels. Then we showed an example from January earlier this year where the same thing played out. We had our sell-off, our first bounce, lows set, consolidation, sideways action, move out, grind up, and eventually finding resistance at these same levels, similar to this time in 2021 and similar to where we're finding resistance today. And that we would sell off from this range and eventually move down lower into these $2.25 and $2.15 areas, like we did in 2021 when we sold off and fell down into these areas. And what you can see is the most important thing we spoke about is that when XRP does sell off like this, the confirmation of the bottom comes in when we see this low here reclaimed. And as you can see in this chart, Once it's reclaimed here, that is the confirmation that the low is in. And if you have a look back into January, you can also see that once this low is reclaimed and we see 4-hour closes above this area, the low is marked, and that's it. XRP can move up just like it did, and then XRP can move up just like it did. So by today's measures, we're looking for XRP to break down below this low, expecting it to either stop here at this $2.25 area and find support, or find support down in the $2.15 region around here, $2.17, $2.15, and then eventually once this is reclaimed, that would be good confirmation that the low is in. So all in all, to recap for the week, everything seems to be playing out how we had planned, and that XRP is selling off like we would like to see, similar to the way it did here, similar to the way it did here, and that the altcoin market is also selling off with XRP while Bitcoin is still holding up here and potentially looking to either grab liquidity from those highs that we spoke about on Monday or sell off down to this support region. Either way, what's most important here is the dominance and a confluence of events happening. So if Bitcoin does just want to chop around here and then go for that breakout and never find support, what we want to see is the dominance and the altcoin market here working in confluence to the way it did in 2017. And what I mean by that is that if dominance starts to push back up to that 618 region and then start to break down and Bitcoin's still just chopping around in here, meanwhile we're seeing the altcoin market rip while the dominance starts to break down, it's a pretty good confirmation that Bitcoin isn't going to break down and find support here, and it's likely to push through these highs, bring the altcoin market with it, bring XRP with it, and we should see Bitcoin dominance breaking down in this moment. So closing out the week here, everything's going as expected, still expecting XRP to sell off some more, maybe come in for a bounce around these levels, and then eventually give us that bottom where either it stops here or we see it stop here. Eventually we just want to see this reclaimed, and then that's our signal that the bottom for XRP has come in. Whether we see it stop there or we see it stop there, what's most important here is that we see the reclaim of this low, support found here, and we will be trading this live on the channel if price plays out exactly like this. Likely scaling in here at 225 and 217 to 215 with our stops at the low here at 207, looking to put full position in once we see this price level reclaimed. So I'll see you guys Monday. Happy trading. Let's see how price plays out over the weekend. So not expecting a whole lot this weekend as far as price action. I think we're going to be going into maybe a week or two of quite boring price action where we just see a lot of chopping around, maybe a little bit more selling off here for the altcoins, XRP, and we'll be back on Monday to update how things are going and what we see playing out in the price charts here. Until then, have a good weekend and happy trading out there.